Hi class, Dr. Doug Brown here. Welcome to week 7. Our class is almost over. We've had almost 8 weeks together as we've learned more about the research process. Let me tell you, I'm very impressed with your work. You've given it 110%, as I have mentioned in the past, and you really are moving forward to help yourself prepare for this final project. Now, our final project is a research proposal, as you know. The importance of the research proposal is that we cannot move forward with any research until the research proposal is complete, it is accurate, and you have a good foundation. The research proposal serves for any research. It serves as the cornerstone, the foundation, if you will, of any research project, no matter if it's qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods. Otherwise, it serves as the good foundation. And without that proposal being accurate and having all the pieces together correctly, it is difficult to conduct a research study. What you will find is if you were doing a research paper, a research project to write the paper, if you start that project and it's approved without the foundation, in this case the research proposal that we're working on, being accurate, being strong, and having each piece developed correctly, you're going to find yourself frustrated, and it is next to impossible to correct the research project down the line. Very difficult. You'll run into difficulties. I've seen this before. I experienced it myself in my doctorate. I had to rewrite the research proposal many times. It took a long time to get it right, to get it accurate, so that it was a good foundation. And that's why it's difficult in this time period, in 8 weeks, if we were doing a research project, you were finishing your capstone, you were doing a study, it's difficult to get together in that 8 weeks. 16 weeks, it's even difficult. So it's not uncommon to have multiple iterations of your research proposal. I know it's frustrating when I give you a 0 and ask you to revise and resubmit, but I can assure you that it will benefit you as you develop this final research proposal. Now, the way the grades are weighted, I will look at every part of your research proposal closely. I want to make sure that we have a good foundation, the introduction's done, put together correctly, the methodology is correctly, the research questions, the problem and purpose statements are correct, they're accurate, they're accurate, well developed, and they're narrow. The topic needs to be narrow. The research questions need to be open-ended. They need to be able to match the methodology, and that's a difficult thing. That's sometimes difficult in that the problem and purpose statements and the research questions don't align. You'll see alignment mentioned in our book and in the material throughout these weeks that we've had the class. Everything must align. So it's like taking your vehicle to the shop and having the tires rotated, and the shop technician comes out, the mechanic says, hey, your vehicle is out of alignment. Well, if you continue to drive it that way, then what's going to happen is the tires are going to wear, you're going to have reduced gas mileage. Eventually you could have some problems with the front end, which would have to be replaced, etc. So it costs much more money later on if we don't address it and spend the $89 or whatever now to fix it. So it all must align in order for it to come out correctly. If the research questions don't align with the problem and the purpose statement, the topic, the methodology, when you get down to developing that final project, it doesn't make any sense, is what will happen. You'll read it, or you'll get someone else to read it, and it just doesn't connect. So that's why it's important to try to get everything to connect. Now, at this point, as I said on day one, we're not trying to achieve perfection in the class. What we are trying to do is prepare you for the future, to help you in the future, so that if you complete the Executive Fire Officer program, if you go to grad school, or do any other number of projects, you have some idea about what this process entails and what you have to do to get it. It's difficult. It's not always easy to do for anyone whatsoever. I can tell you, it's just challenging. So I would ask that you look at my feedback, read that material, pay close attention to the problem statement, purpose statement, as that's outlined in the material, the textbook, the tips and examples and links that I've shared in the announcements, and the getting started form. Pay close attention to that. Pay close attention to the research questions, and read, and look at each one of those to make sure that you ask the how or the why or the what, depending on your methodology, and that all connects. Now, your research questions, your purpose statement, problem statement, doesn't need to be this long. It needs to be short. And it needs to be exactly to the point in a line. I keep mentioning alignment, but I'm telling you it's important that they align. If you develop this research proposal that you're working on now, thinking about today and not the future, you're selling yourself short. Because there's going to be a point in time when you are going to move forward, as I mentioned, and go to grad school, or complete the Executive Fire Officers program or another program. And you'll be able, if you do this correctly now, you'll be able to use this to help you then. But if we don't get it right now, at least close, it won't benefit you in the future. You'll save yourself time in the future by doing it now. So all that said, we are moving forward. You're doing quite well. I'm impressed with your work. Matter of fact, when I've been grading the papers this week, I'm almost through with, almost finished with week 6. Impressed. Each of you have traveled the distance. You've crossed the creek. You really have given 190%, most of the time 290%, in understanding the methodology, understanding the writing, the layout, the organization, and grasping APA. All that's important. We can't say in the research proposal in this class, we can't say, well, I hate APA, doesn't make any sense to me, what I got to do that, why come I can't just write the paper? It doesn't work that way. It's just like the alignment on the research questions and the other portions of your paper. It's a combination that wraps together. So I like to share the analogy of the taco or the burrito. So if we build a taco or we build a burrito, we got to put all this stuff in it, right? If it doesn't have the ingredients, we're just eating a tortilla. Who wants to just eat a tortilla unless you're just hungry, you know? So we need all those pieces to that to build it, you know, meat, cheese, and lettuce, and whatever you put in a burrito or the taco, that's like this final research proposal. We need all those ingredients for it to turn out right. Now, I like a lot of spices in mine. You know, I'm a garlic fan. I like a lot of garlic. I don't like it real hot. But I want all those ingredients, onions and all those other things in there so that we get it right. And that's so it tastes right. And that's what we're doing with the research proposal. So let's talk real quick. I've had you a long time. Let's talk real quick about limitations and delimitations. What are they? A limitation identifies potential weaknesses of the study. They're the limits. They're the limits of what we can do and what we can't do in the study. So in this example, think about your analysis, the nature of self-report, whatever instruments you're using, the instruments like a survey or a phone interview, and think about any threats to any of the internal validity that may have been impossible to avoid or minimize, and then explain them. So in short, what we're doing is there's pieces when we do a study that we just cannot control. There's limits to it. There's weaknesses to the study. There are always weaknesses to every study. You can look at any study, doesn't matter what it is. You may see this on the news where the CDC reports, or someone said that vaping's not good for you. Well, I guarantee you, no matter what the findings of that study is, there's weaknesses in that study. There's something they couldn't accomplish, some information they couldn't find, didn't have time to finish it, etc. So there's limitations. A delimitation addresses how a study will be narrowed in scope, how it's bounded. There's always delimitations. When you explain the delimitations, this is really a place that the things that you're not doing are noted, and then including why you have decided not to do them. Again, I don't have time to do it. We didn't have enough data, etc. Those are things that you will share in your paper, in your final proposal, and we'll discuss that this week when you, in your paper, you'll be discussing those limitations and delimitations. So I want you to have different headers for these, if you mind. Don't combine them. Don't say limitations and delimitations. I want one section that has limitations, should be bold, and then discuss those limitations, and then another header, a level 1 header in the center, bold, that is delimitations. Whether it's one delimitation or multiple delimitations, there should be several. Explain those so the reader can have it. Always add a conclusion. I know what the APA says. If you doesn't have a lot of stuff to say, you don't always have to have a conclusion. I get it. I understand. But I want you to get used to writing the conclusion. That's the reason I tell you all this and share it with you, is so that I can help you, get used to that final paper, so that we put all those pieces together, not simply for the sake of having you, do something. I know it's repetitive. I know it seems repetitive. I always see that on the evaluations. Is this repetitive? Why do we have to keep doing it? And I'm sure some of you will write that on your evaluations, and that's fine. But it's all the things that we do are repetitive, and it's systematic to teach you and to help you to get those exercises in writing and to develop that final proposal. So I want you to do me a favor today. I want you to stop everything you're doing, and I want you to go back and look at that template that I've shared in the past. If you don't have it, it's in the announcements, it's in getting started. Go back and look at that template again and look at those sections, and don't get confused by that template. Some of that's just an example, like the first 2 headers are not bold. The first 2 headers are not bold. There's level 1 centered headers, Times New Roman 12-point font, but they're not bold. Everything else is bold except for references, which is plural. So go back and look at that template if you don't mind. That's it. It's been about 15 minutes. I know you're tired of hearing me talk. I hope I helped you a little bit. If not, pick the phone up and call me. Send me a text. Email me. I will do everything I can and move mountains and try to help you with the research proposal, the final proposal. I'm here for you. That's my only purpose, is to help you move forward and finish strong. So I'll see you later. See you in discussions. Keep rocking. And remember, I am proud of every single one of you. There's not a student I'm not proud of. See you soon. Thanks for stopping by.